I don't think it was right near us, but we heard the gunshot, so I'm like, sure, I'm not going to hang out. I mean, it's a Bronx, it's not that far. Well, great. Okay, shutting down. What are we shutting down? All rise.
All right, how's everybody doing? Good, thank you. As we get started for today, for us that's back to competition Wednesday, and we have really established a precise nature in getting ready, and we never assume it, and that's why we put the work in. And the process of the week is really, really important. What we do on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, because all that work has to be done before go time, and so you can't look ahead to the game. You just have to stay right in it, and that's where we're at today. So glad to get rocking with you guys. If you want to open it up.
Starting with a specific one, how close is the linebacker tandem of Bobby and Frankie to what you guys imagined when you signed them back in March?
I think a lot has come to life for that. In terms of the blitzing, in terms of how we feature the guys. I think Joe's done a really good job, and Ken as well, of knowing what everybody's strengths are. Obviously, with Bobby, it was easier to see that with Ken's history and my history with him. But with Frankie, I had a really clear vision of what he could become. What I didn't know as much was the energy and the confidence and all the support he brings as a teammate, and that has been a really big lift for our team.
With Bobby specifically, you've known him forever. How has he evolved the most, I guess, since you first got with him in 2013?
Definitely from the communication aspect, and I thought in this last game it was really him at his best, where there were some calls that had to get checked and communicated back to people, and then after the last second step around somebody to make a tackle. But I thought in this game he really demonstrated real poise about it, and he always has that, but there was another level I thought that it went to, of in and out of checks to go, because of the nature of Chicago's offense with the shifting and the motioning to go and on the ball. So some of the calls he made on himself, not from the sideline.
Do you have an update just on how Jaden's feeling coming out of the game, but also Cornelius and Brandon Coleman at this point?
I'll hit on all three of them. So Jaden will do some practice today. Brandon Coleman is doing well, and he'll also work back into practice, and Cornelius Lucas won't with his ankle injury. So we'll see where he looks like as the week goes, but both Jaden and Brandon will get some practice in today.
Well, is Jaden's injury something you'll just have to kind of monitor as the season goes on?
Yes.
The rookie class, I mean, you've gotten some really strong contributions from pretty much most of them at this point. I mean, how have they kind of come along? How have they developed in your mind? Yeah,
that's an awesome question, Nikki. I think what makes me think about those guys first is like the maturity of this group. And they have, really leaned into one another and spend a lot of time together, whether that's, I see McCaffrey and others that just on the field, off the field, to spending the time, but they were really ready for the challenge. And I think some of that comes with their maturity. A lot of them have been 4 or 5 year guys into that space. So they've really bonded. And the older guys have a lot of respect and regard for them because of the way they compete, and they can be counted on. I think the older players, that's what you want to see in a young guy. Can this guy help us? Will he be the same? Will he deliver? And so when they're able to do that, that's a big deal.
You have a win like this. Have there been teams in the past that maybe you worry how they respond, and what gives you the confidence that this team will respond exactly the way you want them to?
Yeah, it's a great question, John. I think because of the precise nature that we do to get ready, it does allow you to get right back into it. All the things that we have to do on a Wednesday and a Thursday and a Friday. And so today we spend so much time on tackling and breaking tackles, and then tomorrow it's into the ball and ball securities and takeaways. Happy New Year. And then after that on to Friday, winning time moments. So we really work hard at that, John, to make sure the process of the week can take care of all the learning. So it doesn't leave you a lot of time for that. And then also tell the truth is a big part of it too, because to be a good team, you have to handle the stuff. And the stuff can be a lot of things, from injuries or a big win or anything that comes down the pike. And so handling the stuff, it's something that we talk about with them. I'd rather have the discussion about it than not. And so handling the stuff is part of becoming a good team. And you have to prove you can do that.
And then with Jaden, he's had some touchdown passes that are big time throws that have low probabilities for success in general. Why is he able to, you think, complete some of those? The Hail Mary with the couple, the Bengals one, I think one of the Ravens one. Why is he able to complete those in those situations?
Yeah, I think let's take the one from Sunday out, just because that's not normal. So we'll take that one out. But I think when you're talking about like at the Cincinnati one, a blitz coverage. Okay, I got a shot. It's 1-on-1, but it does have to be in a precise nature to get there. I'd say a good bit of it comes from the work that the guys put in together. And you can remember even from training camp, extra early. I can remember when Noah Brown first got here, him doing extra with him. They hadn't had time to connect. And so little overtime moments like that, not overtime game, I'm saying extra work to put in with people pays dividends, but you have to have space to do that. And I think that's a big piece of that.
You mentioned Johnny Newton stood out to you in the game the other day. What has your view of him in terms of like how you see him ultimately playing out his role, has that changed at all since you've had him here? And just in general at this point, what do you kind of see him being?
I think it probably sped up some, Ben, due to the injury to John. And so, of course, when we got him, when you had setbacks with injuries, that's not something that you're prepared for. But I knew the player, and I knew days like Sunday were coming. And so to see that come to fruition and the confidence that goes along with that, I think that's really important. But I knew that part of his game was there. And we had seen it in practice. You guys hadn't seen it in the game yet, but I knew we were knocking on the door for that.
And with regards to Jaden and Malik Neighbors, obviously another game with both of them here, they both have clearly come into the league very strong. I don't know how much you studied Neighbors because you were focused maybe on the quarterback, but what do you sense of the competitiveness between the two of them, how that maybe pushed them both to get to this point and to succeed as they are? Yeah,
and I think both of them, I think you said the right word, it's the competitive nature of them. And that's true with a lot of players who come through LSU into that space, like some guys that have really stood out into some spaces, and they're two that are demonstrating that over and over again. But oftentimes you can take that competitive nature a little higher when you have someone to do it with. And I sense that was probably the case with the two of them, and spending extra time and doing it together. There's a certain level that your skills will get to, but then if you get to do it with somebody else, it can rise up even more. And I sense that was probably the case with them. I don't know Malik, obviously, like I know Jaden, but man, was I impressed on the tape of what I saw.
Hi, Dan. You mentioned all the stuff, handling all the stuff. With that stuff comes the success, the limelight with all this winning. How do you want your team, your players to embrace that success element?
Well, I think you've heard me say the word before, but it's poise, of knowing that there's, with confidence comes like you put the work in and you're confident to go play, but you have to have poise. And that's what you want, to make sure that like all the moments happen because of the work that you put in, not just because they happen. And so I think that's what poise and confidence do, knowing that like we're able to do some things because of the work you put in, and that generates confidence to go play well. And so if you do that over and over again, then you start to, create an identity and have confidence. And this team has a lot of humility as well. And that also, I think, is a big piece of staying in the moment and going to the next thing. And stuff can be lots of stuff. It's on the field, it's off the field, and just staying with a lot of poise, I think, is a big piece of that.
NFL trade deadline is next week. There's been a lot of trades already this year. As a head coach, in your experience, how do you evaluate kind of your roster and try to figure out when to make a move, not make a move? Take me kind of through that process.
Yeah, and fortunately for me, that's Adam, and we talk about the team every day, and we'll be after practice going through the injury report and the game of, what's next. So at this time of year, lots of phone calls are made. I don't know how many deals are made, but it's increased for sure over the last, 5 or 6 years, and especially with the trade deadline moved back just a bit. I think that's added a little bit to it, but Adam's really the one that keeps me up to date and up to speed onto that.
I know you say that the schedule kind of precludes you from
concentrating on what just happened, but do you have to say something to this team at all about, because the way that game ended, to move them forward?
Yes. And, like most things, Chick, I'd rather talk about all of that. To say handling the stuff is dealing, both left tackles were out, and you handle the stuff. And, dealing with injuries and coming back from, being down, or the emotions that go with it, that's also part of it. How do we handle ourselves in the locker room, on the field? The next one, fortunately, there's some really cool leaders on this team that are able to step in and maybe be in the spaces that I'm not. And that's the guys like Wagner and Ertz and Luvu and many others that are ready to step into that space, and knowing, hey, this is where we're going to lock in to go do our stuff. So you do have to reset, but I'd rather talk about it than assume it would happen. And so let's acknowledge it and then put the work back in before we get to go time.
You heard from the league on the Newton sack yet?
We have not, but we have absolutely addressed it. So we'll find out. It's certainly a pass play, so I'm hoping it goes his way.
You guys had the nail biter against the Giants week 2. How different or better, how much better, how much different is this team now in week 9?
Well, I think what you want to see is, teams improving as the season's going, and you have to demonstrate that on an every week basis. What I do know, this is going to be a tough battle. That's what it was week 2, and that's what we're preparing for again. And that's kind of what part of the fun of division games are, like they're tough, they're bad. You have to have a 5-quarter mindset to take it as far as you have to take it to go get the win. And we know we'll get their best shot, and in return, they'll get ours.
With the Giants' struggles this year and with Bobby coming from there, does it seem like perhaps he got a raw deal up there and the fresh opportunity here has really resonated for him? Because the O-linemen talk about just how much he means to that whole group.
Yeah, he's really an excellent teacher. I won't speak to his time there, but what I can say is the impact that he's had here. Both in the run game, gun runs, under the variations of those, and our offensive line is a really tight and connected group, and Bobby's right in the middle of all that. He and Darnell and Shane as assistants, and the guys, they have a really cool bond. They lean on one another. They take suggestions. So as far as a room goes, as a coach, that's what you're looking for.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon.
Kind of similar to JP's question, but more from a functional standpoint. Like, I know a lot of people will say, like, you guys saw the Giants not that long ago, but really it's been quite a while in the scope of the NFL picture. How much can you really lean on from that last competition as you're getting ready for this week, and how much do you need to kind of have fresh eyes looking at this as a new opponent? Yeah,
I think you have to do both, because you start the first film I put on was our game against them. And because it thinks about the players and the matchups and what you did and what you didn't do and what you liked and what you didn't in all 3 phases. And so I like to watch the game just as it plays out. So from the kickoff, going to defense, and to a punt, to whatever it goes, as opposed to like watching it as just an offense and just a defense, especially like to see the whole thing play out. And that's where you start. And then you want to go from there. What's stayed the same and what's different? And so that's what you want to, do your comparisons with, what they've established. Just fantastic rushing the passer. And that's really one of the impacts they've made. But they've played strongly on third down. So there's a lot, that I've seen them improve upon since our game. That was just, the second game of the season. So maybe they were then, but it was too early to play it. So some talented guys, the receivers, obviously, with the catch and run, the ability for what they can do. You've seen that play out, over the last, 2 months or so.
Got time for 3 more.
And then they've gotten a lot more successful in their play action game, just successful down rates. Obviously, there's a lot of contextual markers that go into that, but how much of that can you tie to the emergence of Tyrone Tracy as a running back? Yeah, it's for sure a factor in the run game. There's a real patience that you see with him in the run game. And then you add the play pass with it, and that's, to me, where offenses really can explode, where they look alike, feel alike, but, play out differently.
Hi, Coach, again. Could you talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the secondary, and mainly with Michael Sanders still in the last couple of weeks, and what you're seeing from him?
Sure. I thought, moving Mike outside was a big deal for us. And most of his experience had come inside in the slot. And so for him, when we moved outside, we thought that was the best move for the team. I love the tackling that I've seen. I saw that again on Sunday. Love the competitive nature that he brings to the group. But moving him outside was one that we wrestled with. Is this something we could do? And it turns out for us, it was the best move for us to do. From a secondary standpoint, I love the safeties and the communication that they have. And that's continuing to grow. Like I see that with chin and confidence on the sideline, the way they discuss things. Let's look for this. Let's watch for that. So that's the type of stuff you want to see as a coach. So sometimes in the game, it's what I see, but it's also what I hear.
Hey, Dan, I'm sure you get this question every week. I'm going to ask it again, but especially in light of what's been happening with some other of the younger quarterbacks in the league. One just had a moment of leadership and maturity question. Another top-round pick was bench. Jaden has shown massive maturity since the moment he stepped in, and I'm just wondering, when did you see that, and when did you become confident that you wouldn't have to worry about some of the growing pains of the mentality? Yeah,
I would say there's probably two parts to that, and I'll answer it. I'll take one more after that. I got another minute. But the first one is I felt his football experience from all 5 years of playing, from ASU to LSU. So there was a lot of football there. So when we threw new things at him, he was able to go. And the work ethic that you saw early on allowed that to happen. By us, making him go compete for that position, I think that's an important step along the way for a player to demonstrate to his teammates, I'm down for it. I'm just can compete like everybody else has. And then I think the last piece for that is his humility. And he and Marcus share that common bond. It's Marcus's birthday today, but they're different in age, but they share this humility that goes along with it. I think their teammates really regard that because they'll put the extra work in, they'll ask the questions, and they'll defer to them as well. All right, want to do one more, Sean?
Last one. Playing the Giants will be the first time that a team has seen Jaden twice in a season. What kind of challenge does that, I guess, kind of provide for him? And then for yourself as you prep him, how much do you delve into your own experience with kind of trying to play games with a rookie QB when you were at DC? Yeah,
I think number one, you want to make sure that you always keep a few wrinkles that's available for the next time that you're playing somebody. You have a game plan, and usually you haven't used all that was there, and you had some of that on your call sheet for a reason. And so first thing you do is you pull that out and say, why didn't I use it? Was it successful? What wasn't? So both teams have, there'll be some new wrinkles that'll go with it. But at the end of it, trusting your reads and your preparation will be the big thing. But usually in a division game, there's a couple things you keep in your back pocket for the second lap. All right, you guys have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you a birthday guy? Doug, you often point out birthdays. No. Or Sean. Yeah. Are you well prepped?